guys want the lowdown on this episode? We realized today that we needed to record it tonight if we wanted something to come out this week. So we just scrambled and we're like, let's do the prequels. We like the prequels.
Yeah, so
So
it's like a hash of Star Wars knowledge.
yeah, that's why this episode is the way it is. Full
Yeah.
disclaimer.
We accept it. We know who we are. Welcome back to the potty. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Holla.
This week, if you haven't seen From Caleb's Light, we're gonna be talking about Star Wars. I
Star
know
Wars.
I know in the past we talked about The Mandalorian, but this time we're gonna go a little bit further into the prequel series.
Yeah, and now we have an outline.
Yes. So we won't just be rambling about how Disney is trying to money grab,
So we will ramble less.
but rambling nonetheless.
Yes.
I just rhymed less with less.
It
All right.
happens.
Well, you gonna
Cool.
jump right into it?
Yeah, so the prequels are the fourth, fifth, and sixth movies.
Sick.
Just want to confuse somebody out there. Yeah, it's Darth Vader's origin story, basically. Or you could argue that it's Obi-Wan's origin story. Hmm,
Ooh, that's
whose is
also really
it?
good. Depends on who you like more. Or is it
I like
Padme's
Obi-Wan.
story? Just story.
Uh,
Not
yes, let's go with that. It's Padme's story. Cool. Yeah. The first movie is The Phantom Menace, and it's Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and they go and find little Anakin Skywalker, and Qui-Gon dies, and then the next two movies are about Anakin growing up and disagreeing with the Jedi and eventually killing all of them, most of them. Actually, not that many of them. Like there's so many in the newer stuff that just survived Order 66.
Yeah, if you had asked probably like 10 years ago, we'd be like, oh yeah, all the Jedi are dead. But now we're like, well, there's Ahsoka, then there's Rey, but Rey also has
Ahsoka's
like
not a
friends.
Jedi.
Okay, she's force sensitive though.
Yeah. Um, for our viewers out there, there's gonna be some weird cuts in this video. Something's going on with my internet, just so you know.
It might be me because I'm on the east and there's been like a weird storm going lately, so it's
Oh
not all
yeah,
Caleb.
yeah. It's not all me.
So anyway, the fans of the prequel series.
I would say it's millennials.
Yes, I would agree. The people who grew up with those in the theater.
Yeah. And it bleeds into Gen Z too, obviously. It's the children of the original trilogy fans.
Yeah. Yep. That's a really good way to describe it.
Yeah.
I don't,
Original.
well, I was just gonna say, I don't know if they're like super toxic, to be honest. I think that they just have like a love of the films. I don't think that they're like,
I think the prequel fans and the original trilogy fans band together against sequel fans.
oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. But yeah, they're not super toxic. I think there's just like a general love of the prequels now, and a lot of that is because of Clone Wars, which we'll get into in a different segment. But
Yeah, after I watch all of them.
you don't need to watch all of them.
Some of them? None of them.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
We're not in the baby part yet.
Oh, sorry. Oops.
Yeah, yeah. Miss Ramble.
We can cut that out. Yeah, yeah.
Probably won't.
I don't know. I was just thinking because like I know that there's like Star Wars fans out there that are like, on this planet, Planet XI9 or something like that. Like, I feel like those are people who maybe grew up with the original
Legends.
series. Yeah. And then the prequel people, I feel like are more. I feel like they just like the upgraded cinemas and like the fights. I think that they like the fight scenes and sequences.
Yes, yes. Oh, the fights in the prequels were bomb.
Yeah, and I guess that sort of goes into like why do people love slash hate it? But
Yes.
I do know that like Hayden Christensen, I think is his last name,
Mhm.
Christensen.
Christensen.
And then Ewan McGregor, they like practice like crazy on those fights that they had against each other. And I think people just like saw the level that Jedi's could go in those fights and they were like, whoa, that's
Yeah,
pretty
I know.
sick.
Like it's like caused some fan edits of like the Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader on the Death Star.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple fan edits out where people like they like take part of the scenes and then it cuts to like obviously like green screen with like stunt doubles, but it just shows that like they could have made that scene way cooler.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
but there's like some lore stuff that goes on with it that we can talk about in the original trilogy. But
well, I do know that there's like specifically like a part where Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting each other. And at one point they're both just twirling their swords.
the Annie-Obi spin.
Yes. And somebody this isn't my original like brain baby, but I did like see something on it where they were like, this is like the pinnacle of Anakin taunting Obi-Wan because he's like, I know exactly what you're gonna do. And he's just mimicking him in his spins. And I think that's like another reason like going along with the fights why people love it is because it like adds another layer of symbolism to the Star Wars universe.
That's cool, but it's actually not that deep.
What is it?
I watched this video of like a swordsman expert, like swordsman expert reacts to,
Hmm.
and they like show him scenes from like historical dramas, like Gladiator, stuff like that. And he's like a legit swordsman, like he's trained. Um, and like with the he like broke down part of their fight, and that scene specifically, he's like a lot of people make fun of this, but the motion that they're doing back and forth is perfect for defense, and it keeps your sword in motion, so as soon as you deflect an attack you can now have control and take over.
Oh, that's cool.
It's actually like a super boss master move.
Well, and I guess that just also goes to show like it's a master move. Like how many kids do you know have those like swords that you get from Walmart, the lightsabers that where you like flick it, it like comes out in like different levels, whack, and then they like you just see them like whacking each other. Like, I don't think that kids are necessarily doing it to the original series. I think it came out with the prequel.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. We're probably the wrong people to ask because mom and dad wouldn't let us watch Star Wars growing up until the prequels came out.
That's true.
Yeah. Whoa, we just did our Pirates one, and I think I was younger when Star Wars came. Were those PG or PG-13? Was I allowed to watch those?
I don't know. I guess I've never
I
like
don't know.
really. I just know I would like fall asleep to it.
Someone get in the comments and comment what they were rated. Also, it would help boost our channel a little bit if people start commenting.
I do know because we're sort of like in like the love it and hate it, right?
Hmm.
I do know a huge reason why people hated it was originally because of Hayden Christensen and his like portrayal of Darth Vader at the very, very end.
Yeah, but like he gets unfair hate. Like everything that like people don't like about the prequels, it directly goes back to George Lucas.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And like at the end of the day, you'd rather have Jar Jar Binks than the sequels, most people.
Yeah.
Also, I will say as a child, I loved Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, me too. I didn't realize that there was like massive hate until recently when they were like, this man deserves an apology. And I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, by the time the third one came out, I hated Jar Jar Binks. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a little kid thing. But like as a little kid, I was like, this is so funny.
Yeah, he's the coolest character.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
oh, he like can't catch the ball and he ends up winning the war because of it, kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's it. Yeah. slapstick humor, and I get why people don't like it. Like I would prefer to not watch it now, but I did like it at the time. So I would say that George Lucas did something right with the Jar Jar Binks.
Well, also I coming from like my perspective on it, I feel like there's like a definite shift of recognition of royalty in the original series versus the prequel series. Because like in the prequel series, you know that Padme is royal, like the way that she dresses, the places that she goes, her servants, and all of that. Whereas like Leia is supposed to be a princess, and like, well, I know that like her kingdom was like toppled and all of that, but like she doesn't exactly act like a royal or like show that like royalness or regalness. Whereas like Padme just exuded it, you know?
Well, that also could be like a cultural thing if you want to break that down, because Padme, Queen Amidala, is from Naboo, and Leia is from Alderaan.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. I do know that like she technically didn't grow up as that royal, but she was the one handing out the medals at the end, and I'm like, really? That's what you'd wear at the very end?
Yeah, that's true.
And I know that it was like a low budget film, but
Yeah, that is kind of a weird thing about Star Wars is that they started with 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, and 9, or not 7, 8, 1, 2, and 3 came
yeah.
later. Like, I am gonna get some serious hate. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like if they just rebooted Star Wars from episode 1.
Oh, from episode one?
Yeah.
Wow, that is sort of ooh.
I'm just saying, like, if you could get some solid actors, like, so we've got the story now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, just get some people, like, get someone who can play Obi-Wan from the beginning all the way to the end. Like, Ewan McGregor is like 3 or 4 years younger than Alec Guinness was when he filmed it, and he looks way younger. So, like, when he's in that Obi-Wan TV show,
Mm-hmm.
he's like really close to the age that Alec Guinness actually was, and they look nothing alike. And we're supposed to believe that he like ages up 50 years in 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
So wait, when you say one, you're talking about like Phantom
Phantom
Menace?
Menace. Yeah.
Whoa.
But I mean, it also doesn't make sense because what they've done does work and it's like really good. Okay, I guess really what I don't like is the use of de-aging and like CGI.
Yeah.
I don't like that that's happening, and I'm a little bit like maybe they should just reboot if they absolutely want these characters. I
Well, I
don't know.
mean, if they're in that like position to do money grabbing and stuff, it sort of makes sense for them to to do that, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I think we are going the wrong direction here.
Me or you? Me?
All of us,
Oh, okay.
all of us. I
We
think
are a team.
we have derailed from why do we love or hate it.
You did get a little bit into theories though, which wasn't too bad.
Okay, let's get into theories then.
Well, did you have anything else that you wanted to say of why people love or hate it?
I loved Yoda's fight against Dooku.
It goes along with the fights. That's what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
fighting and like the just the ability of the Jedi's just, you know, whole different level.
Well, I think also George Lucas probably had a better idea of what he wanted the story to be for 1, 2, and 3. Like I think
Mm.
part of 4, 5, and 6 were just kind of by the seat of his pants.
I will say this though, there has been a lot of hate on the sequel series about how they like the fights weren't as cool as the prequel series.
They weren't, and we'll get into that when we do the sequel series. I would be happy to just not talk about the sequel series at all.
Oh, but we're gonna talk about it because I would love to talk about the sequel series.
Yeah, but I mean like today.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know. Get the train back on.
Well,
Woo-hoo.
it's more because that's a 90-degree turn for this train. I will take it. There will be no coming back. There's no loop.
Can't Caleb just pulls out like a notebook of like reasons why he gets so irritated with the prequel series or the sequel series. And then I'll have
Okay,
my
well,
little journal of why I like
here's a
it.
little preview since we're still talking about it. I really like episode 7. Okay.
Yeah, everyone does.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Great.
they messed up number 8. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Should we just pivot? Should we just do sequels right now?
I feel like if we do it right now, the prequels is gonna get no love.
That's true. That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Okay, top theories. What do you think like they could have done other than like what they could do by redoing 4, 5, and 6?
I don't think I follow what you're saying.
Do you have any theories?
Like, I mean, you can't have any theories about a movie that's been out for 10 years.
I did see this thing though. Okay, well, I guess I do. Just one
Okay.
that said that like uh Padme, like there's like a storyline of that like Padme, like if Padme had lived through it, and then she like got to raise one of the kids or the kids, I guess, on her own island.
So are you asking like what my alternate universe ideas are?
Sure. It's just a theory.
Uh, okay. Yeah. I would just love to see if Anakin didn't turn to the dark side.
Oh yeah.
Like that would give us a whole new 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'd have no Darth Vader that way. But
No, but it could be a Darth not Sidious. Um
Bane,
what's Count Dooku's bad name?
Tyrannus.
Yes. Could you imagine him as a bad guy?
Well, but Anakin kills him before he turns.
Or that one guy with the 4 arms?
Grievous. He's not force
Grievous.
sensitive. He's not a Darth.
Oh man, he's just really good with a sword.
Yeah. Well, like, what if? Yeah, I don't know. This is why George Lucas should have just hired a writer, though, because like, I feel like he just kind of was like, this is what I feel like should happen,
Yeah. I do.
and that's why you get. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
You're like, that's literally how you describe sand. You could just say, I don't like sand.
Right? It's like a Chat GPT answer before Chat GPT.
Yeah, I don't know as far as like theories on the prequel series. Like, you're right. Like, we've already seen where it goes and like what it does. And I think the only thing that like maybe would have been like cooler to see in it would be like more of like a romance between Padme and Anakin because it sort of does come out of nowhere. And I think their relationship, because it is very like high school relationship, I think it would have been nice to like see it differently.
Yeah. Okay. There are some things that are running through my head, but before we can do that, like we've got to talk about the pop culture babies.
Okay, well let's just go ahead and jump there
Yeah.
and we can jump back.
Let's just combine them. Just
Okay.
yeah. Let's just. I feel like we might need to just not follow our outline a little bit.
This is so slippery. Such a slippery slope.
I know. I know. Just don't mention Finn or Ray, and we're good. Okay.
There it is.
The babies.
Yeah.
The baby of the prequels is the Clone Wars. I know there's another Clone Wars that I think happened before the Clone Wars. There's like a crappy animated movie, but there's like a very well animated TV show called The Clone Wars where Ahsoka was introduced. It was spearheaded by Dave Filoni, you know. So in the Clone Wars, you get to see Anakin and Padme's relationship.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah. Like the Clone Wars, there were a lot of people that were hating on the prequels a lot until Dave Filoni came in with Clone Wars. and just gave more context to stuff, like showed Palpatine manipulating Anakin more, showed Anakin being more of a boss, showed Anakin using dark force techniques as a Jedi. There's just so much in the Clone Wars. And they dove deeper into like the Jedi lore. Like there's a whole episode where these like Padawans are looking for their kyber crystals in some cave on some planet where there's a bunch of kyber crystals.
Oh wow, that would have been a cool scene to see.
Yeah, well, it's not a scene; it's a whole episode.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's cool. Um, Now I forgot where I was going with the whole Clone Wars thing. It was probably just because you mentioned like you wanted to see their romance.
Well, I do think that the I think this is why it's hard for us to talk about theories because every theory that they had, they were able to answer with series later on. So like Clone Wars and then this new like Obi-Wan series and then like Rogue One was able to patch up some stuff and then it's like pretty much every theory that like fans had, the Disney executives, Disney writers got back in it and were like, well, here's this. It answers it.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I think that's why it's a little bit hard. But I think another obvious baby is a sequel series. Because I think people they saw how successful the prequel series were, and they were like, "Hey, we should do the sequel series. It'll be equally as successful." Was it? No, not really. But
monetarily it might have been.
well, I think that might just be because of inflation, though.
Mm, Someone get your inflation calculator out.
Wow, you're giving a lot of homework to the people listening.
Okay, I mean, we only get like 20 listeners video, so
Okay, mom, get on it.
um, well, I feel like we could talk a little bit about like what we like about it more, because that's
Padme.
really, huh?
Padme.
What do you like about Padme? Dive into that.
Okay, well, like for instance, Padme was like there in the fight. She was like right next to the Jedis, even though she was like ill-equipped very often. But like it was her idea to have her handmaiden be the one to be like pretend to be, I guess, Keira Knightley, to be her stand-in and like she just is a very political character and she used both sides. She used her like cunningness and her political power to figure out things.
I think it's kind of interesting that Palpatine manipulated her too.
Yeah, I mean he did manipulate her, but like in terms of like a female character, I do feel like she was written very well.
Yeah, yes, she was. But like what I'm saying is like Palpatine is also from Naboo. Palpatine was also a senator from Naboo. Like he used her to become the supreme chancellor.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's another aspect I like is that like Palpatine is a formidable foe.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know if he is Darth Bane? Or is that his name? Darth is Bane the like big bad?
No, his name is Darth Sidious.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm saying like, okay, so we have to get into sequels for this, and I apologize. um, Sorry, my computer's trying to
Oh,
restart, and I'm trying to stop it.
that big bald guy in number 8.
No, that's Snoke.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'm getting out of your depth here.
Yeah, you might be. I don't know. I'm the only Bane I know is there are no drugs here. Yeah.
um, okay. Episode 9. He tries to suck the life out of Rey to get his body back,
Hmm.
which is the power of life that he's telling Anakin about um in the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Do you remember that?
Okay,
Have
yes, I
you
do.
have you ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wide?
Probably, but go ahead and just tell me again. And for
You
those
know,
of
you
that don't
seriously
know,
don't remember that part? That's when they're at like the
ah,
space opera in
yeah,
the space opera movie.
I remember the part, but like the story itself.
Okay, but the gist of it is that, well, he doesn't tell Anakin this, I don't think, but like the gist of it is that you can like take the life force of someone to extend your life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like that's what he's trying to do with Rey. Um and like there's a I don't and this is what I was asking you. I don't know if it's like confirmed or if it's just straight theory. I think I think Bane is the guy's name, Darth Bane. But that just feels stupid. Darth Bane? Like, come on. I don't know. There's some big bad like before Darth Plagueis, and a lot of people think that that Sith has just been regenerating by stealing people's life forces. So he's just been regenerating for like 1,000 years. So he's a Sith Lord who's existed for 1,000 years and been able to manipulate the politics and everything of the galaxy to put himself in the position of being emperor.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was asking you if Sidious actually is Darth Bane or not, or if that's just a theory.
This is the first time hearing about Darth Bane, but it would be sort of a cool setup for another series if they ever decided to do one.
Well, whoever, I'm gonna look it up. I'm just gonna look it up so I don't look like an idiot. I already look like an idiot, but
While he's looking it up, I think like honestly, if there were another big baddie and if they wanted to explain it better, because I do think that there's a lot of loose ends to tie up. I do know that there's that movie that's coming out, I think like 2025 or 2026 with that will star Ray again. And it's supposed to, well, maybe not 2025, maybe it's 2027, but it's supposed to be Ray 15 years after whatever happened in the sequel series. And so that might be because technically she's the only one who's ever really like defeated Emperor Palpatine in the sense of like with her life bond with Kylo Ren. So it would make sense. She'd need another villain.
I don't know. I am interested to see what that movie will be about though, because Grogu's gonna be in it,
Ooh,
and Buddy Boy should be grown up by then.
that's cool.
I kind of am worried that it's gonna be her teaching him the Force.
I don't know. I don't think so because he already tried to learn the Force with Ahsoka, so it wouldn't really make sense. I think that they understand that the fans are unhappy with the sequel series and they want to get back to the prequel series. So if they want to get back to the prequel series, they gotta get back to the essentials of just making Jedi's cool.
Well, I think if they wanted people to like the sequel series, all they have to do in this Ahsoka TV show is have her go to the world between worlds, go back in time, and introduce a new sequel series. It's a legitimate thing that we should talk about in the sequel episode.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I think it's okay, but to be fair, I do think it's really hard not to talk about the prequel and the sequel. What like they are very intertwined, whereas I don't feel like the original series is very intertwined, like with everything else. I think everything
That's
else
true.
sort of plays off of that as a culture baby. And because you add upon it and add upon it and add upon it, there's all these plot holes that they try to fill with series. And the biggest plugs that they put in was the prequel and then the sequel.
That is very true. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so I looked up Darth Bane.
Mm-hmm.
It is Darth Bane, and Screen Rant. I know they're not super reliable, but they have an article from like back in 2019 about how Darth Sidious's life force was taken over by a much older Sith, likely when he was a young kid. Um, so, and a lot of people think that it's Bane. Bane is like known as the biggest bad Sith
Oh
ever.
wow, that's sort of creepy.
Yeah. A lot of people really want a Bane series,
It
which
would it would be cool to have a series about the bad guy.
there's a lot of things that would be cool. The number one cool thing that people want is the Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes, me too. My vote.
For some reason, Disney just won't touch it. Like I feel like they're scared or something. Or
Well,
maybe they're just keeping it in their back pocket for like when they like totally F up Star Wars.
I think that there's a little bit of like red tape because I think Knights of the Old Republic was made by Sony before Disney bought it. So I think that there might
You're
be
talking
like,
about the video game?
yeah.
Okay, so when I'm talking about Knights of the Old Republic, I'm saying they could just go to a time period where Jedi are at their peak.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Like what I'm saying is people want to see a butt ton of Jedis in a battle,
Yeah.
which is why that's why I really like Attack of the Clones. I get a lot of hate for this, but episode 2 is my favorite.
Honestly, like I don't think it's that hard to get into Star Wars if you start with the prequel series. If you're newer to Star Wars, you're not somebody who genuinely watches stuff, that you're just like you know that it's going to be a chore and you start with the prequel, I think you'll be a lot more into it than starting with the original.
I disagree.
Why?
Here's why.
Okay, there we go.
um, so Janessa hadn't seen Star Wars,
Hmm.
and we watched it starting with episode 1 because I was like, oh, this is great. Like she gets to start at episode 1 instead of starting at episode 4. There's actually a lot that happens in 1, 2, and 3 that don't make sense unless you've watched 4, 5, and 6.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. Some of it is just jokes. Like, I mean, like, hello there. Like, that's from episode 4,
Yeah.
you know? But like there's other like plot points that are just a little bit like I wish I could remember which ones, but I remember I had to like explain some things to Janessa where she's like, wait, why did they do that? And it's a little bit like, oh, because that guy's actually the bad guy,
Mm.
you know? Like I would say watch the originals before watching the prequels.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Star Wars is such a big beast. I think starting anywhere, you'll enjoy it. Like any movie is an enjoyable movie, but putting them together is a little bit more difficult. And I think the prequel series, if you're watching 1, 2, and 3, those are probably the most seamlessly and most fun to watch all in one.
Yeah, that is the best written trilogy.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
But like the dialogue is not the best written dialogue.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Out like a scale of like 1 to 5, how much of a nerd do you need to be able to enjoy it?
To enjoy Star Wars,
No, just the prequel series.
um I'd say like a 3.5.
So like a little bit of a nerd, but not showering nerd.
Yeah. Like I think it's easier to get into other fandoms than it is Star just because like Star Wars is kind of confusing itself.
I will say that there's a lot of like different terms. I do agree with the 3.5. I think my biggest thing is the politics. You have to listen to the politics a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like it's definitely way easier to get into Harry Potter than it is to get into Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that this is like sort of like a scattered overview of the prequels, but I do think that we conveyed very clearly how beloved the trilogy is compared to the other ones.
Yeah. I really hope that. Uh what I was saying
Hmm.
at like the very beginning about like Clone Wars, and I guess this is kind of like how do you join, but this is like how do you join Clone Wars specifically. You can Google which Clone Wars episodes do I need to watch. And there's like 20 to 30 episodes of the first 6 seasons of Clone Wars. Um, and then watch all of season 7.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you don't actually have to watch all of it. There is some stuff that happens that is kind of cool. Which like Dave Filoni, so Dave Filoni did it, and he is just Star Wars would have crumbled without him, I think. Because like he pays such good attention to continuity. Like um so in episode 3, Anakin, when he like meets General Grievous,
Hmm.
he's like, "You're shorter than I expected." Like basically implying that it's the first time they've ever met.
Hmm.
Um, there's multiple times that they like come in close contact of each other in Clone Wars, but they like never actually see each other.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah, and like Dave Filoni like made sure that that happened. So
That's I feel like any series that gives like attention to that type of detail is going to be successful.
yeah, well, and obviously with the Clone Wars, like the clones are a big part,
Hmm.
and they bring so much life to the clones themselves. It's like I love the clones, and I only did the like 20 episodes then, and then season 7. I
Hmm.
haven't seen all of it, but like the clones are so cool, and they're like super underutilized, honestly, in the movies.
Well,
Um, Go ahead.
there's like a whole army when you just assume that they're all like the same Roger Roger, type of kind of.
Yeah, I mean they are bred to like fight a war across the entire galaxy, which that's also an interesting thing where like um Palpatine takes over this clone army, but he was also in charge of the droid army. Dude was coming out on top either way.
Like he didn't care.
Yeah, I mean, no. Um, but yeah, so there with the clones specifically, Mandalorian has started talking a lot about clones,
Hmm.
you know, like this last season they like talked about like the ethics of cloning kind of thing. Um, but also they've come out with the Bad Batch, which is a continuation of Clone Wars kind of. Do you
Yeah.
know what Bad Batch is about at all?
I do know what it's about. I haven't seen it though.
So good. Yeah, for people who don't know what it's about, there is a special unit, Clone Force 99. It's a unit of clones where extra like DNA manipulating was done. Um, and they're like, so like one of them is super strong, one of them super smart, one of them is like crazy accurate in his shooting, and the other one is able to track anything on a planet. Like if you tell him you need to find a certain radio tower, he can just like track the radio wave kind of thing.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but there's also a girl clone, Omega, that was introduced, and she is on the same tier as Boba Fett, where she's like a primary clone, where like literally the only thing they changed was made her a girl.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. Um, but in like the most, this is a massive spoiler for Bad Batch, so if you're into that, like go away. Um, uh, she she has met another girl clone.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So there's like a whole force of girl clones out there now. So that's an interesting thing about the clones.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So to wrap up this massively hectic episode,
That's on us. Sorry, guys.
we hope you guys come back. You don't have to like this video, just subscribe, please. What would you give episode 1 out of 5?
4.3.
Wow.
I know. But based on everything I've ever watched, not like just Star Wars films, because if it was just Star Wars films, it'd be a lot higher. But based out of everything I've ever seen, it could be better.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
I
I'd
would
say
just,
4.5.
ooh, okay, I can up mine a little bit because I did realize I did rank Pirates of the Caribbean pretty high, and I was like, well, it does sort of go up above that.
Um, oh, I can't believe we didn't even talk about pod racing.
Oh yeah, okay. I do think really quick, I think going along with pod racing, there's a lot of little things that the prequels introduce that are like way fun. Like I feel like the original series was really focused on world building, and then the prequel got to do a lot of like these little things, like instead of just world building.
Well, the prequels got to show civilization.
Hmm.
Like the original trilogy was just following the rebels, and the rebels were living in scrapyards. Like prequels, we got to see Amidala, who had like this big fanfare.
Yeah,
Like we got just so much. We got to go to Coruscant.
yeah.
So
So
yeah.
is pod racing why you would do a 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5?
No, I just like the movie.
Oh yeah,
Um, I mean, if you want me to spoil my numbers here, they're
go
all going to
ahead.
be around 4.5.
I would say number two is probably around a 4.2, 4.1.
Most people I could see giving it that, but I give it like a 4.5.
And then number three, I think I would give it a 4.5 again. I think it'd be pretty equal to number one.
Yeah, I feel like at my age now, I should give number three a 4.5, but or a 4.6, but I think I'll still give it a 4.5.
Can I also really quick, just before we're done with this episode, I know I just asked you a question, but I have something really cool to tell you about the music in it.
Oh, yes.
Are you okay if I say it now?
Yeah, go for it. I love the music. I can't believe we didn't even talk about it. Duel of the Fates. Come on.
That's the one I'm talking about, Duel of the
Great.
Fates.
Go for it.
So John Williams, when he was like tasked with writing this like portion of it, um, he named it Duel of the Fates because it was about like winning good or evil. And technically, um, because Qui-Gon Jinn gave his life, everyone sort of sees it as, oh, good one, because eventually like Ewan McGregor or Obi-Wan goes and kills Darth Maul. But really, evil wins that day. And John Williams says from his perspective, that's when Anakin is given up to the dark side because the father figure he needed was in Qui-Gon Jinn. And when Qui-Gon Jinn lost to Darth Maul, that's when Anakin became evil.
Yes, that's the golden nugget everyone should take from this episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That little bit right there. When I heard about that, I heard it from, I think his name is Sam Whitworth. Is
Mm-hmm.
that his name? He does the voice of Darth Maul in um the Clone Wars.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and he like talked about that in a podcast. And like when you look at Qui-Gon Jinn as a character, um, he's a very gray Jedi. Like you see it a little bit in Obi-Wan. Like Obi-Wan sometimes just like does what he feels is right, but he is also very like this is the Jedi code.
Mm-hmm.
But Qui-Gon, I heard that the only reason Qui-Gon wasn't on the council is because of how gray he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the kind of person that needed to train Anakin. Someone who would have been like, yeah, it's okay to love Padme, but like you don't need to go to the dark side to save her kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like gosh, I need to go back and rewatch it because I feel like the music stops when Darth Maul kills him.
Yeah. It switches themes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like that literally is the end of the Duel of the Fates when he kills Qui-Gon.
Yeah. Well, and I think the prequel series is like the fighting added a level, the music adds a level, the clothing adds a level because they like styled them very like specific to where their characters were in development. And like you see Anakin go from white robes signaling like innocence, then to like gray or like brownish robes, and then finally to black robes. Like
He never. Oh yeah, he is black when it's Darth Vader, but like when he's in Jedi form, I don't think it's ever actually black. It's just a very very dark brown.
no, he is wearing like that. Well, I guess yeah. When he finally is like, I'm on the dark side. Yeah. But it just shows like his progression and even like Padme's progression. It shows her like becoming like from a little girl who does whatever anyone tells her to like she starts to like dress herself too. And like Obi-Wan stays consistent, so he stays the same in his outfit choices.
Yeah, man, I need to go back and rewatch them. And honestly, when I watch Star Wars, when I'm like, I want to watch a Star Wars movie, I go to the prequels.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, episode 7's pretty cool.
I don't go to episode 7 just because I know what it actually sets up instead of what I thought it would set up.
Yeah, you're right. If I were like in a Star Wars mood, I think it would be 1, 2, and 3. Even though I like Rey, yeah, the nostalgia I think gets it.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't like this episode, I apologize.
I do know that it was like a little scattered, but I think like um people who like the prequels I think would enjoy it because they understand how much like layers and how many depths that it has.
Yeah. Also, if you guys just like want to help us out and like comment what you want us to talk about, that would help out. Like if you have questions about certain fandoms, if you have certain fandoms you want us to talk about.
Also, don't
I
come fully at us because we did just have a niece born today and it's summer, so we've been a little bit scattered anyway.
Yeah, and as of recording, it's like 1 a.m. for Paige.
Yes, I have been yawning a little bit in this. Sorry.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, let us know what you want us to talk about. Paige's friend had the idea for us to read Name of the Wind.
We're really close on that, by the way.
I have finished both of them.
I'm halfway through book number 2. Although I found like this one that's like a 2.5. Have you seen that?
Yeah, should we read that one before we do the thing?
Sure.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
What's
But
it
yeah,
called?
please. I don't know what that one is. I'm still
I
on
don't
number
know.
2.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting one.
Yeah, we're excited for that. So please tell us what you want us to talk about, and we'll put more effort towards it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, but we do love you guys. We appreciate you for watching, and if you stuck with us, you deserve a medal, but
Yeah.
not Chewy.
I hate that they gave him a medal in the sequels.
Or that
Okay,
it.
thanks for
Okay,
watching.
bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Nerd.